I never thought I'd find myself here. But then again, no one warned me how betrayal feels when it comes from your own flesh and blood. The hospital room was quiet, too quiet, and I was alone with my thoughts. My daughter, Lily, had promised to visit after her meeting, but the hours stretched on without a word from her. When the nurse came in to check on me, she casually mentioned something that made my heart stop. Someone had been by my house. It wasn't a neighbor. It was Lily, and something didn't sit right with me. I tried to shake it off, but as the days passed, my suspicion grew. Lily had always been the picture of sweetness, the daughter who would never betray me. But even the sweetest of smiles can hide the most poisonous of intentions. My name is Martha Lewis, and I'm 68 years old. For as long as I can remember, I've worked hard to provide for my family. I raised Lily on my own after her father passed away when she was just a little girl. It wasn't easy, but I did it. I never asked for anything in return except their love and respect. And yet here I was, lying in a hospital bed, wondering if I had somehow missed the signs that my daughter was planning to sell my house behind my back. The one place I'd spent years making a home. The one place my husband and I had built together. I didn't want to believe it, but the thought gnawed at me. Lily's sudden distance, her refusal to talk about anything related to the house, her odd behavior when I asked her about it. I should have seen it earlier. I thought she was just busy. But that was my mistake. I was too trusting. A daughter doesn't betray her mother, right? I tried to call her that evening, but she didn't answer. My heart sank, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of what was happening. The next day I decided to take action. I wasn't going to wait around helpless, hoping that this was just some misunderstanding. I called my lawyer. He was shocked to hear from me, but he promised to get back to me as soon as he could. My stomach twisted with anxiety as I waited for his call. It was the longest hour of my life. Finally, the phone rang. "Martha, we've got a problem," my lawyer said. "Your daughter has sold your house." I froze. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this? I had to sit down. The house was mine. It had always been mine. My husband and I had worked tirelessly to build a life there. Now Lily was selling it without even telling me, without asking for my consent. But I knew, I whispered to myself. I knew something wasn't right. I had seen the signs, felt the coldness in her voice when we spoke, and the way she avoided talking about the house. It was all adding up. The house had been my sanctuary, my refuge, and now it was slipping through my fingers. But I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without a fight. I had worked my whole life for that house. It wasn't just a building. It was a collection of memories, of love, of loss. It was everything. I couldn't let her take it away from me, especially when I had given everything to raise her. It was time to take control back. I wasn't the helpless woman lying in a hospital bed anymore. I was Martha Lewis, and I wasn't going to be silenced. I wasn't going to let my daughter's betrayal tear everything down. My lawyer told me that he had already put a stop to the sale. The contract had been signed, but it hadn't been finalized yet. Lily hadn't expected me to fight back. She thought I was weak, but she didn't know me as well as she thought. I had a plan. I would show her that I wasn't going down without a fight. When Lily came to visit me the next day, I was calm, collected. I knew what I had to do. I didn't say a word about the house right away. I let her talk, let her prattle on about her day, about work, about whatever it was that she thought mattered. She didn't know that I already knew the truth. And then when she least expected it, I said, "Lily, I know what you did. I know about the house." She froze, her eyes wide with panic. I could see the guilt in her face. The way she tried to cover it up with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What are you talking about, Mom?" she asked, but I saw through the act. "Don't play dumb with me," I replied, my voice steady. "You sold my house behind my back. I know everything." She didn't say anything for a long time. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. Finally she spoke, but it was too late. I had already won. "You have no right to do this, Mom," she said, her voice trembling. "You can't just take everything away from me." I shook my head. "You're the one who's taken everything from me, Lily. You've taken my trust, my respect, and now you're trying to take my home. But I won't let you." She stood up, her face flushed with anger. "You're not going to get away with this," she snapped. "I'll make sure you regret this." But I wasn't afraid. I had already made my decision, and there was nothing she could do to change it. I had taken back control. And in that moment I realized that no matter how old I was, I still had the power to fight for what was mine. I couldn't believe what had just happened. My daughter Lily had always been the one I could count on. Or at least that's what I had believed. As she stood there, her face flushed with anger and guilt, I felt the weight of the years we had spent together crumble. I had trusted her, loved her, and given everything for her. And yet, here she was standing before me, trying to justify the betrayal that she had just committed. The realization hit me harder than any illness or physical ailment I had ever suffered. She had been plotting behind my back for months, maybe even longer. My house, my life's work, the home where my late husband and I had raised our family, was now slipping away from me because of her greed. I had spent years creating a home filled with memories. Every corner of that house held pieces of our history. The nursery where Lily had grown up, the garden where we had planted roses together, the kitchen where we had shared countless family dinners. And now it was all at risk of being taken away by the very person I had trusted most. But I wasn't going to let her win. No matter how much it hurt, I was not going to let Lily take what was rightfully mine. You think you can just take everything from me? I asked, my voice steady despite the fury building inside me. You've already taken enough, Lily. Now you want to take my home too. Lily looked at me, her eyes narrowing as she tried to maintain the facade of being the victim. I was just trying to help, she said, her voice shaking with a mix of guilt and defensiveness. You're not going to be able to live there on your own anymore. It's too much for you. You need to move on, Mom. I shook my head. No, Lily. It's not about me being able to live there alone. It's about you betraying me. You've been planning this for months, haven't you? I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. She took a step back, her eyes darting around as if looking for an escape. You don't understand, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I needed the money. I thought you'd understand. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All these years I had sacrificed so much for her. And now she was telling me she was doing it for the money? I had given her everything, and this was how she repaid me. My heart ached as I stared at her, but I knew I couldn't let her see my pain. I had to stay strong. You've done this behind my back without my consent, I said, my voice growing firmer. And now you're trying to justify it by saying you needed the money? That's not how this works, Lily. You don't get to take what's mine just because you think I don't need it. Her expression faltered, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of shame in her eyes. But just as quickly it was replaced with defiance. What do you want me to say? She snapped. That I'm sorry? That I didn't think about it? I've made my decision, Mom. It's done. I felt a surge of anger rise within me, but I kept my composure. It's not done, Lily, I said, my voice cold. You may think you've won, but you haven't. I've already taken steps to stop the sale. Lily's eyes widened and, for the first time, I saw a crack in her armor. What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling. You don't think I'd let you get away with this, do you? I asked. I've consulted a lawyer. The sale is not going through. And if you think you can just walk away from this, you're mistaken. The room was silent for a moment, the tension hanging heavy in the air. Lily stood there staring at me, her face pale. I could see the fear creeping in as she realized the consequences of her actions. She had underestimated me, and now she was facing the reality of what she had done. You can't do this, she whispered, her voice cracking. You can't ruin everything. I crossed my arms over my chest, standing tall. You're the one who ruined everything, Lily. Not me. I'm just taking back what you tried to take from me. And I'm not going to apologize for that. Lily opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. She was speechless, caught in the web of her own lies. I could see the wheels turning in her mind as she tried to figure out her next move. But there was no escaping this. The truth had been exposed, and there was nothing she could do to change it. For the first time I saw the woman I had raised crumble. And in that moment I knew I had won. I had taken control back from her. And I wasn't going to let her destroy me any longer. I'm going to make sure this never happens again, I said quietly. And if you think I'll ever trust you again, you're sadly mistaken. The silence between us was thick, and Lily turned away, her shoulders slumped as she walked out of the room. I watched her go, my heart heavy but resolute. I had done what needed to be done. The battle wasn't over yet, but I had reclaimed my dignity, my home, and my peace of mind. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about standing up for myself and not letting anyone, not even my own daughter, take that away from me. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I knew I was strong enough to face whatever came next. I stood in the kitchen, my hands gripping the counter as I stared at the empty space around me. The silence of the house was deafening. The walls, once filled with the laughter of my family, now felt cold and distant. I had always thought that as I grew older, I would be surrounded by love, by the people who owed me respect for all the years I had given to them. But instead I was left with this emptiness, this betrayal. My daughter Lily had sold my house, the one place that held every piece of my life, every memory of my late husband. It was gone just like that. And yet, as much as the pain cut through me, it didn't break me. I wasn't going to let it. I had spent days processing what had happened, but it wasn't until that moment in the kitchen that I realized just how much control I had over this situation. I had thought I was powerless, stuck in the hospital, too weak to do anything. But I wasn't powerless. I had been planning my next steps all along. I had been collecting the pieces of this puzzle, waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. And now the time had come. I didn't know what Lily had been thinking when she sold the house. I didn't know if she thought she could get away with it or if she thought I would just accept it, but I did know one thing. She underestimated me. She had always underestimated me. The morning after our confrontation, I sat down with my lawyer. We went over the details of the sale. He confirmed what I had feared. Lily had signed everything without my knowledge or consent. But there was one thing she hadn't counted on. My lawyer had already stopped the sale. The contract wasn't finalized. Lily hadn't sealed the deal, not yet. And now, thanks to my foresight, she was going to have to face the consequences. I had never been one for confrontation. I preferred to handle things quietly in the background without making a scene. But this time I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything my husband and I had built together. I made a few phone calls, gathering the necessary documents, getting everything in order. I wasn't sure what Lily's reaction would be when she found out that I had stopped the sale, but I was ready for it. I had no intention of letting her control this situation any longer. When she finally came to see me, I could see the panic in her eyes. She had tried to act calm, tried to pretend everything was fine, but I could see right through her. The guilt was written all over her face. I didn't even have to say a word. "How could you do this to me?" I asked quietly, my voice steady, but the hurt was there, hidden beneath the surface. Lily looked down, avoiding my gaze. "Mom, I thought you'd be better off," she said, her voice small. "I thought you didn't need the house anymore." I shook my head. "You don't get to decide that for me. This house was mine, and I'm not letting you take it from me. Not now, not ever." She looked at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "What do you mean?" "The deal is done, Mom. You can't undo it." I took a deep breath, standing up straight. "Actually, I can. I've already contacted the lawyer. The sale hasn't gone through. It stopped, and it won't be going forward." The words hit her like a slap. She staggered back, her face draining of color. "What?" she whispered. "How did you?" "I knew, Lily," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I knew what you were doing. I knew you were trying to sell the house behind my back. But I'm not going to let you take everything from me." For a moment there was nothing but silence between us. Lily opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was stunned, speechless. I could see the shock and anger building inside her, but I wasn't afraid. I had already won. "You don't have the right to make decisions for me," I continued, my voice steady. "I raised you. I took care of you. And this is how you repay me." Lily shook her head, the tears welling up in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, Mom," she said, her voice cracking. I thought I could fix things for us." "You've already broken everything," I replied, my tone cold. "You thought you could fix things, but you didn't fix anything. You've only made it worse." She fell silent, tears streaming down her face as she looked at me, her expression a mix of guilt and frustration. It was then that I realized how much this situation had changed both of us. Lily had always been the one in control, the one who made the decisions, but now I was the one who held the power. She had lost my trust and she had lost my respect. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me any longer. The house, my home, was not for sale. And I was not going to let her take it away from me. As she turned to leave, her shoulders slumped, defeated. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It wasn't over yet. There were still things to work out, but I had taken the first step. I had stopped the sale. And for the first time in a long time, I felt in control. I wasn't the helpless woman she thought I was. I was Martha Lewis, and I would fight for what was mine. I sat in the living room, the familiar surroundings of my house now feeling more like a stranger's place than my own. The once cozy atmosphere was now filled with tension, the walls echoing with the silence that had settled between us. Lily hadn't returned my calls since our last conversation, and I knew that this wasn't over. It couldn't be. She had tried to manipulate me, to strip away the one thing that meant the most to me. And she thought she could just walk away from it all, leaving me to pick up the pieces of my broken trust. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I wasn't going to be the one who lost. Not this time. I had spent the last few days stewing in my anger, reflecting on everything that had led to this point. How had things gotten so bad between us? I thought back to all the years I had spent raising Lily, giving her everything I could, teaching her how to be strong, independent, and kind. I had worked hard to build a life for her, and now it seemed like all of that meant nothing to her. She had sold my house behind my back, and now she was trying to justify it. I thought about the last time we had been truly close. I had always been there for her through thick and thin, and I had expected the same loyalty from her. But somewhere along the way things had changed. I had failed to see the signs, the small cracks in our relationship that had widened into this gaping chasm of betrayal. She had become someone I barely recognized, someone who saw me as nothing more than a means to an end. I thought about my husband, George. He had passed away a few years ago, and since then I had tried to hold everything together. George had always been the one who had protected me, who had kept me grounded. And now, without him, I was forced to face the reality of my situation on my own. I had never expected to have to fight for what was mine. I thought my family would be there for me, that they would support me in my old age. But instead, I found myself facing betrayal from the one person I had trusted most. The house, the one place that had been a symbol of our family, was now a battleground. And I wasn't going to let Lily win. I had already taken steps to stop the sale, but that was just the beginning. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me any longer. The next day I decided to take action. I called my lawyer again, making sure everything was in order. He reassured me that the sale was halted, and that there were legal consequences for what Lily had done. I felt a small sense of relief, but I knew that this wasn't over. The real fight was just beginning. I needed to confront Lily, to make her see the consequences of her actions. But I also knew that it had to be done carefully. I couldn't let her see me as weak. I had to stand my ground to show her that I wouldn't be intimidated. The following evening Lily called. Her voice was tight, as if she was trying to hide her nervousness. "Mom, can we talk?" she asked. I could hear the hesitation in her voice, and for a moment, I considered ignoring the call. But I knew that this was my chance to finally put an end to the games. "Yes, Lily," I replied, my voice calm but firm. "We need to talk." She agreed to come over the next morning. When she arrived, she looked uncomfortable, shifting on her feet as if she didn't know what to say. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but she was trying to hide it. "Mom, I'm sorry," she started, but I held up my hand to stop her. "Sorry," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Is that all you have to say? After everything you've done, all you can say is sorry?" She flinched at the harshness in my tone, but I didn't care. I had spent too many years being soft, too many years being afraid to speak up. Now I had to be strong. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said, her voice trembling. "I just thought it would be easier if I handled everything. I thought I was doing what was best for you." "What was best for me?" I asked, my voice rising slightly. "You didn't ask me. You didn't even tell me. You just made decisions without me, without considering how I would feel. You sold my house, Lily. My home. And now you're telling me it was for my own good." She looked away, avoiding my gaze. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "I thought I was doing the right thing." "The right thing?" I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You betrayed me, Lily. You took everything from me. And now, you expect me to just forgive you. She reached out, her hands shaking. Please, Mom. I never meant for it to end up like this. I thought if I could just sell the house we could start over, fix everything. I was trying to help. I shook my head. You were trying to help yourself, Lily. That's what this was about. You wanted the money. You wanted control. And now you've lost it all. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. She didn't know how to respond, and for the first time I saw her for who she really was. The daughter I had raised was no longer there. In her place was a woman who had been consumed by greed and self-interest. I've already contacted the lawyer, I said, my voice steady. The sale is off. And if you think I'm going to let you get away with this, you're wrong. Lily's face turned pale as the full weight of my words sank in. What do you mean? She stammered. You can't just undo this. It's done. No, I said, my tone resolute. It's not done. Not yet. I'm going to make sure you never do this again. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. She was defeated, and I could see it in her eyes. She knew that she had lost. And in that moment I realized something. I wasn't the woman I used to be. I wasn't the woman who had to rely on others. I had found my strength again, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. Not Lily, not anyone. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the letter in my hands, the paper crinkling slightly under my grip. The lawyer had been clear in his message. My daughter had made a grave mistake, one that could cost her everything. It wasn't just the house. It was the trust, the bond we had built over years, now shattered. I had done everything for Lily. I had given her everything a mother could. And yet this was how she repaid me. It wasn't just the sale of my house that hurt. It was the realization that the woman I had raised, the daughter I had poured my life into, had betrayed me so easily. But the shock was wearing off now. The anger was starting to fade, and something else was taking its place. A cold, calculating resolve. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I couldn't. I had fought too hard for too long to let this betrayal slide. It wasn't about the house anymore. It was about respect, dignity, and reclaiming what was mine. I needed to make sure Lily understood the consequences of her actions. I wasn't going to play the victim. That was not who I was. Not anymore. The next morning I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my blouse, trying to look as composed as possible. It wasn't about appearance, it was about how I felt. For so long I had allowed myself to be invisible, to be the one who took care of everyone else, to be the one who made everyone feel comfortable. But now I had to focus on myself. For the first time in a long time I wasn't going to bend for anyone. I wasn't going to apologize for what I had done or for what I was about to do. I had spent days thinking about the right way to handle this, and now I knew. It was time to confront Lily one last time, to let her see that I wasn't weak, that I wouldn't be manipulated or silenced any longer. I called her. We need to talk, I said, my voice calm, controlled. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I knew she was reluctant. She knew what was coming. But this time there was no avoiding it. When she arrived, she didn't say anything at first. She just stood there in the doorway, her eyes avoiding mine, her face a mask of guilt. Mom, she began, but I cut her off. No, Lily. This time, I'm the one who's going to talk. I could see her bristle at the authority in my voice, but I didn't care. She had to hear this. I'm not the woman you think I am, I continued. I'm not some helpless old woman who you can push around. I'm your mother, and I deserve your respect. Her eyes narrowed. I didn't mean to hurt you, Mom, she said, her voice wavering. I just thought it would be easier if we sold the house. I thought it would solve everything. Solve everything? I asked, my voice rising now. You don't solve things by stealing from me. You don't solve things by selling my home, the only thing I have left, without even consulting me. You solve things by talking, by respecting me, by treating me like I matter. She opened her mouth to say something, but I stopped her again. No, Lily. I've spent years making excuses for you, for your behavior, for your choices. I've put everyone else first, but not anymore. I'm done. I'm done being the one who's always there, who's always forgiving. This time it's different. Her face turned pale as the words hit her. I could see the shock in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of regret. But then I remembered everything. All the years of sacrifice, all the quiet suffering, All the time she had ignored my needs, my desires. She had taken so much from me, and now it was time for her to see that I wasn't going to let it happen again. You've made your decision, Lily, I said, my voice steady. But I've made mine too. The house is not for sale. The deal is off, and there is nothing you can do about it. You've lost my trust and you've lost my respect. You'll never get that back. She shook her head, her hands trembling. Please, Mom, I didn't want it to go this far. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought it was for the best. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, but I didn't feel pity. Not anymore. You thought you were doing what was best? You took what was mine without even asking. You thought you could just make the decisions for me. And now you're standing here trying to apologize? It's too late, Lily. The damage is done. She took a step back, her eyes wide with disbelief. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. I didn't think you'd fight me on this. You don't get to decide how far this goes, I said, stepping closer to her. You don't get to decide what I need or don't need. You've overstepped, and now you'll have to live with the consequences. There was a long silence between us. The weight of the conversation hung heavy in the air. Lily didn't speak, and neither did I. I didn't need to say anything else. The truth was clear. I've already spoken to the lawyer, I said, breaking the silence. The sale is stopped. And if you think I'm going to let you walk away from this, you're wrong. You've crossed a line and there's no going back. She didn't say anything after that. She just turned and walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, alone once again. But this time it was different. This time I knew that I had taken control back. I had fought for myself, and for the first time in years I felt like I had won. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity. And I wasn't going to let anyone take that from me again. I sat alone in the living room, the house quiet around me. The air felt heavy, almost oppressive. It was like the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting for the next move. Lily hadn't called. It had been days since our last conversation, and I knew she was avoiding me. The weight of what had happened still lingered in the air. But I wasn't about to let her control this anymore. Not now. Not after everything. The lawyer had called again that morning. The sale of the house was officially stopped. But that was just the beginning. The real fight wasn't in the courts. It was within my family. And it wasn't going to be easy. I had always been the peacemaker, the one who kept things calm, kept the family together. But with Lily I couldn't play that role anymore. She had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. I thought back to the years I had spent raising her, the sacrifices I had made, the things I had put aside to ensure she had a good life. But now it felt like none of that mattered to her. The love I had shown her, the care I had given, had been thrown away for the sake of money and control. My heart ached, but the pain was different now. It was no longer just hurt. It was a quiet anger, a fire that burned deep inside me. I had spent too many years giving and forgiving, always putting my family's needs ahead of my own. But that was over. I wasn't going to let anyone take from me again. Not Lily. Not anyone. The next morning I prepared myself for what was coming. I had spent the previous days thinking, planning, and now it was time to put everything into motion. I wasn't going to let her think she could just fix this with a few empty apologies. This wasn't something that could be swept under the rug. This was about trust. And Lily had broken that trust. I knew she would come to see me sooner or later. She wouldn't be able to stay away. When the doorbell finally rang, my heart didn't race like it once would have. I was calm, collected, ready. Lily stepped inside, her eyes avoiding mine. She didn't speak right away, and I didn't either. I let the silence fill the room. It was important she felt the weight of what had happened. Finally she spoke. Mom, I know I've messed up. She began, her voice hesitant. I never meant to hurt you. Then why did you do it? I asked, my voice steady. Why did you sell my house without even telling me? Her face flushed, and she shifted uncomfortably. I thought it was the best thing for you, she said weakly. You've been alone for so long, and I thought this would help. We could start fresh. I shook my head. You didn't think about me, Lily. You didn't think about what I wanted. You made decisions for me without asking, without even considering how it would affect me. She opened her mouth to say something, but I stopped her. No. It's too late for excuses. You crossed a line. She bit her lip, clearly struggling to find the right words. I didn't mean to hurt you, Mom. I didn't think it would go this far. I thought I was doing what was best for us. For us. I repeated, the word sounding hollow in my mouth. This was never about what was best for me. It was about what was best for you. You used me, Lily. You took advantage of my trust. And now you think you can just make it right with a few words. She flinched at the harshness of my tone, but I didn't feel bad. I needed her to understand the depth of what she had done. I've already stopped the sale, I said, my voice firm. The house is not going anywhere. And if you think I'm going to let you take what's mine, you're wrong. The room was thick with tension. Lily stood there, silent, her expression a mixture of guilt and defiance. She had never expected me to fight back like this. She had underestimated me. You can't just undo it, Mom, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've already signed everything. It's done. No, it's not, I replied, my voice cold and final. You might have thought you had control, but you didn't. You've lost control, Lily. You lost me the moment you decided to sell my home without my permission. She seemed to deflate before my eyes, her shoulders sagging as the reality of the situation sank in. I had finally taken the control back. The house wasn't just a building. It was a symbol of everything I had worked for, everything I had built. And I wasn't going to let her take that away from me. I won't forgive you for this, I said, my voice low but steady. Not now. Not ever. Lily didn't respond. She just stood there, her face pale, as if the words had struck her harder than anything I could have done. She turned to leave without saying another word. I didn't chase after her. I didn't need to. I had already made my point. The next few days passed in a blur of paperwork and phone calls. The lawyer confirmed that the sale had been halted for good, and Lily's attempts to manipulate the situation were officially over. I wasn't sure what the future held for me and Lily. I didn't know if our relationship could ever go back to what it once was. But I knew one thing for sure. I had stood up for myself. For the first time in a long time I had taken control. And that was something I would never let go of. I sat in the living room, my hands resting on the table, the weight of everything that had happened settling in. The house was still mine, but it felt different now. It felt like a battleground. Lily had tried to take everything from me, but I had fought back. I had won. Or at least that's what I kept telling myself. The days after the confrontation had been quiet. Too quiet. Lily hadn't reached out, and I hadn't made any efforts to contact her either. I knew there was still a long way to go before things could be repaired, if they ever could be. I had stopped the sale, but there were still legal battles to face. I wasn't naive enough to think that Lily would just give up. She would fight back. And when the time came, I would be ready. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. But for now, the silence was unbearable. It was a reminder that things had changed forever. I had always been the one who took care of everything, who held the family together. Now I was forced to confront the fact that my own daughter had betrayed me. The thought of it still stung, but I refused to let it break me. My phone rang, breaking the silence. It was the lawyer. Picked up. On the first ring. "Martha, we need to talk," he said. His tone was serious and I could tell something was wrong. "What's happened?" I asked, my heart starting to race. "I've been in touch with the real estate agent. It seems there's been a complication," he replied. "A complication? What do you mean?" I asked, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "Lily has been in contact with them again. She's trying to get the sale reinstated," he said. I felt my pulse quicken. Of course, Lily wasn't going to give up that easily. I had known this would happen, but hearing it made it all feel real again. "She's doing what?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. "She's still trying to sell the house, Martha. But don't worry, I've already put a stop to it. We're going to fight this. We'll make sure the sale stays halted for good," the lawyer assured me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Good," I said, my voice steady. "I won't let her take this from me. Not again." The lawyer went over the details with me, explaining what steps we would take next. It wasn't going to be easy, but I wasn't backing down. I had already lost so much, but I wasn't going to lose my home. Not now. Not ever. After the call ended, I sat in the quiet of the house, my mind racing. I had always been the one who tried to keep the peace, the one who made sure everyone else was taken care of. But now I realized that I had to put myself first. I had to stand up for myself no matter how hard it was. Lily had crossed a line. She had broken my trust in the most unimaginable way. And I couldn't just let that slide. I had to do something about it. But what? What could I do to make sure she understood the weight of what she had done? What could I do to show her that I wasn't going to let her walk all over me? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had to take control in every way possible. I had already stopped the sale, but I needed to make sure that Lily faced the consequences of her actions. I couldn't let her get away with this. Wouldn't let her. I spent the next few days preparing. I had to be strategic. I had to make sure that Lily knew I wasn't going to back down, no matter how much she tried to manipulate the situation. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything that mattered to me. The days passed and I continued to stay in control, but the weight of it all started to take its toll. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, of being used by the one person I had trusted most. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about the trust that had been broken, the relationship that had been shattered. I knew I had to confront Lily again, but I wasn't sure I was ready. Part of me wanted to just walk away, to let her deal with the consequences on her own. But I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. I couldn't let her think she had one. I had to be strong. I had to stand my ground. The phone rang again, interrupting my thoughts. This time it was Lily. I hesitated for a moment before picking it up. "Mom," she said, her voice small. "I've been thinking. I know I messed up. I'm sorry." The words hit me like a punch. She was apologizing. After everything, I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to tell her that everything would be okay. But another part of me, the part that was still so angry, knew I couldn't just let it go. "Sorry isn't enough, Lily," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You've broken my trust. You've betrayed me in ways I can't even begin to describe." There was silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, but she didn't speak. "I've already spoken to the lawyer," I continued. "The house isn't going anywhere. You can't just take what's mine." "I didn't mean to hurt you, Mom," she said, her voice trembling. "I just thought I was doing what was best for us. I thought I was helping." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "You didn't think about what I wanted, Lily. You didn't think about how this would affect me. You thought you knew what was best for me, but you don't. You never did." The silence between us grew thick, and I knew there was nothing more to say. She knew what I was saying was true. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I had already taken control and I wasn't about to give it up. "You can try to make things right, Lily," I said, my voice steady. "But the truth is, I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again. You've hurt me too much." She didn't say anything after that. She didn't need to. The damage had been done. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of the situation lift. It wasn't over yet, but I had taken the first step toward healing. And I wasn't going to let anything or anyone take that away from me. I woke up early the next morning, the sunlight streaming in through the curtains, but it didn't feel like a fresh start. There was a heavy silence in the house, a quiet reminder of the battle I had fought, and the one still ahead. Lily had been distant, but I could feel her presence everywhere, her absence a constant echo. I hadn't heard from her since our last conversation. The phone didn't ring, and the silence in the house was louder than ever. I had been prepared for this moment. I knew she wouldn't just give up. But I was starting to realize something. This wasn't just about the house. It was about power, about control, about the way Lily had tried to take over my life, my decisions, my future. I had to admit that I had been blindsided. I had trusted her. I had raised her, sacrificed for her, and loved her unconditionally. But somewhere along the way, that trust had been broken, and now I was standing at the crossroads of my own dignity. The situation wasn't just about me anymore. It was about who I had become, and who I was going to be moving forward. I couldn't let her or anyone else define me. My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from my lawyer. "Martha, there's an update. Lily is trying again to move forward with the sale. We need to meet." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Of course she was. But this time I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything I had fought for. The message sent me into action. I quickly dressed and made my way to the lawyer's office. The drive felt like it took longer than it should have, my mind racing with thoughts of what had been, what could have been, and what was left. When I arrived, my lawyer greeted me with a grim expression. "She's determined, Martha. But we're not going to let her do this. I've made sure the sale can't go through without your consent. We're filing a formal complaint." I nodded, the weight of the situation hitting me again. "I don't care what she does," I said, my voice steady. "She's not taking my house. I won't let her." The lawyer seemed relieved, but there was still the nagging feeling in the back of my mind that this wasn't going to be as simple as a few legal moves. Lily had proven that she was willing to go to great lengths to get what she wanted. She wouldn't back down easily. "Martha," he said, his voice soft but firm, "I need you to be prepared. This may get ugly. She may try to manipulate the situation further." I wasn't surprised. This whole ordeal had been a game to her, one she thought she could win. But I wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. After meeting with the lawyer, I drove home, my mind spinning with all the things that still needed to be done. I didn't have time to dwell on my feelings of betrayal or anger. I had a fight ahead of me and I wasn't about to lose. I didn't know how this would play out, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to let Lily win. The days that followed were filled with phone calls and meetings. I wasn't just sitting back and waiting for the problem to resolve itself. I was taking action. I had already stopped the sale once, but I had to make sure it didn't happen again. I wasn't just fighting for the house. I was fighting for myself. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I felt like I was on the edge of losing everything. But I refused to back down. And then one day the call came. It was Lily. She wanted to talk. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew it was time to face her again. When she arrived, she looked different. There was something in her eyes, something that wasn't there before. Maybe it was regret. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe she was just tired of fighting. I wasn't sure. "Mom," she began, her voice softer than it had been the last time we spoke. "I know you're angry and I know I've messed up, but I want to make things right." I looked at her, trying to read her. Was this sincere? Or was this another one of her attempts to get what she wanted? "You've done a lot of damage, Lily," I said, my voice steady. "You can't just apologize and expect everything to go back to normal. Trust is earned and you've broken mine. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again." She nodded, her head lowered. I know I've done things I can't take back. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix it. I'll make things right, I promise." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but that didn't change the reality of what had happened. "I've already stopped the sale, Lily," I said, my voice firm. "And I won't let you try again. This house, this life, it's mine. And I'm not going to let you take it from me." She seemed to absorb my words, her shoulders slumping. "I understand," she said quietly. "I'll respect your decision, Mom. I'll step back." For the first time, I saw the woman I had raised. No longer a manipulative stranger, but someone who was finally acknowledging her mistakes. It didn't fix everything, but it was a step in the right direction. As Lily left that day, I felt a strange sense of relief. The weight that had been hanging over me was starting to lift. It wasn't over, and there was still work to be done, but I had taken control again. I had stood up for myself, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. I had fought for what was mine and I had won. I sat in the quiet of my home, the silence around me almost deafening. The weight of the past few weeks had settled deep within me, and yet there was a sense of calm that came with knowing I had taken control of my life again. Lily had finally understood, or at least I hoped she had. She had promised to step back, to respect my decision, but I wasn't naive enough to think this was over. It wasn't about the house anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my sense of self, and my place in this world. I had fought hard for that. And as the days passed, I started to realize something I hadn't allowed myself to consider before. Maybe, just maybe, I could finally heal. The pain of betrayal didn't go away overnight, but it didn't have the same power over me anymore. I was no longer trapped in the past, constantly replaying the hurt and disappointment. I had confronted it, faced it head on, and now it was time to move forward. I didn't know what the future held for me and Lily, The road to forgiveness would be long, and I wasn't sure it would ever be fully healed. But I wasn't going to spend my days drowning in resentment. I was going to live my life on my terms with or without her. The house was still mine, and it wasn't just the walls that mattered. It was the memories that filled it. I had spent so many years building this life, and I wasn't about to let anyone take that from me. The phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Lily. I hesitated for a moment before picking it up. "Mom," she said, her voice soft, almost tentative. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About what I did. And I want to make it right." I didn't say anything right away. I wasn't sure what to say. Part of me wanted to tell her that it was too late, that the damage had been done, but another part of me wanted to hear her out. "I'm listening," I said finally, my voice steady. "I know I can't undo what I've done, Mom. I can't take back the hurt, but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry. I was wrong." I closed my eyes, hearing the sincerity in her voice. It wasn't an easy thing for her to say, and I knew that. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't just accept an apology and move on. "Sorry is a start," I said. "But it's not enough. Trust is earned, Lily. And you've broken mine." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, but she didn't speak. "I understand," she said quietly. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I know it's going to take time. But I want you to know that I'm going to do whatever it takes to show you that I'm not that person anymore." Her words hung in the air, and for the first time in a long time I believed them. It wasn't the solution I had hoped for, but it was a step. Maybe it wasn't too late for us to rebuild something. Maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. I didn't know what that would look like, but for the first time I felt like it was possible. The next few weeks were filled with change. Lily and I started talking more. Slowly, cautiously, but there was progress. I couldn't erase what had happened and I couldn't forget, but I was learning to move forward. Lily was learning too. We both had a long way to go, but we were taking small steps one day at a time. The house was still mine. But more than that, I realized that I had regained something far more valuable. I had reclaimed my life, my strength, and my independence. I wasn't the person I had been before. I wasn't the woman who would silently endure betrayal. I was someone who fought for what mattered. Someone who refused to let anyone define her worth. And as I sat in my favorite chair, looking out the window, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I was at peace. It wasn't the peace I had hoped for when I first built this home, but it was a peace I had fought for. A peace that belonged to me alone. I had learned to take control of my life, to stand up for myself, and to never let anyone take that power away from me again.